The shattered prism. Without the steady rhythm of Vibrant's pulse to feed upon, the palace of mirrors felt like a tomb. Glassa paced her obsidian halls, her reflection looking increasingly jagged and frantic. The silence was a mirror she could not manipulate, and the hunger for control began to eat her from the inside out. Her carefully constructed divinity was starting to fray at the edges. Miles away, Vibrant sat by a clear, still lake. He had kept a small, luminous stone from the palace, a memory crystal that recorded the vibrations of the truth. He didn't look at it with malice, but with the calm clarity of a man who had survived a storm. He knew the truth didn't need to be shouted, it simply needed to exist. Back in Shimmer, Glassa's frustration boiled over. She summoned Husha, screaming demands for a new campaign to destroy Vibrant's reputation once and for all. But as Glassa shrieked, her voice cracked, revealing a hollow, metallic rasp. Husha flinched, seeing for the first time the cold cruelty that lay beneath the twin flame mask Glassa usually wore. Husha fled the throne room and found Flutter in the shadowed corridors. They compared the stories Glassa had told them, vicious, contradictory tales that didn't align. They held the black scrolls of the smear campaign, noticing how the monster Glassa described sounded more and more like the woman they just left behind. The spell of the narcissist was beginning to break. Glassa decided to host a grand gala, a final play to regain her audience. She stood before the elite of Shimmer, draped in silk and light, ready to deliver a speech that would bury Vibrant's name forever. She reached for her divine persona, but the energy was gone. The audience watched as a strange, porcelain-like crack appeared on her cheek. Flutter stepped forward from the shadows of the stage, holding the very scroll Glassa had given him to spread lies. Instead of reading it, he dropped it into the flickering brighter fire. "The script is false," he whispered, his voice echoing through the silent hall. Glassa reached out to stop him, but her movements were stiff and clumsy. Husha stood among the townspeople, her voice no longer a silent echo, but a steady bell. She recounted every lie Glassa had whispered, every triangulation she had orchestrated. She looked Glassa in the eye, refusing to look away or enable the fantasy any longer. The monster was never in the garden, Husha declared. It was always on the throne. The mask finally fell. With a sound like 1,000 mirrors breaking at once, Glassa's false persona shattered completely. She stood before her subjects not as a queen, but as a hollow shell of ego, her physical form crumbling into shards of obsidian. The mask was gone, and there was nothing left behind it but a cold, howling wind. Husha and Flutter turned their backs on the ruin of the palace. They didn't stay to watch the shards fall. They walked out of the obsidian gates together, leaving the flying monkeys and enablers roles behind. They chose the path toward the Green Valley, seeking the warmth they had once helped Glassa extinguish. Vibrant stood at the edge of his garden as the sun rose over Shimmer. He felt the shift in the air. The heavy fog of the narcissist's influence had finally evaporated. He tossed the memory crystal into the lake, letting the truth rest where it belonged. The pulse of the world was steady again, and he was no longer a prop in someone else's play.